A reading from the first letter of Paul to the Corinthians. Brothers and sisters, I received from the Lord what I also handed on to you, that the Lord Jesus, on the night he was handed over, took bread, and after he had given thanks, broke it and said, "This is my body, that is for you. Do this in remembrance of me." In the same way also the cup after supper, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this as often as you drink it in remembrance of me. For as often as you eat this bread and drink the cup, you proclaim the death of the Lord until he comes." The word of the Lord.
Our second reading on this Corpus Christi or Corpus Domini Sunday is taken from the first letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians. We have been reflecting on the Eucharist, the sacrament of the body and blood of Christ, as the sacrament of the generosity and compassion of Jesus. In the first reading from Genesis, we are presented with the mysterious figure of a king priest named Melchizedek from Salem. And he offered bread and wine in thanksgiving to God and a prayer of deliverance for Abraham. And we know that in the letter to the Hebrews, the priesthood of Jesus was traced back to the priesthood of Melchizedek. Not the priesthood along Levitical lines, Judaic lines, but directly from God, the mystery of the roots of Melchizedek, only God. But he will offer now the new high priest of the new covenant, Jesus Christ, will offer not only bread and wine for deliverance from military enemies, but will offer his body and blood for our salvation. This is the great mystery that the second reading presents to us. St. Paul tells the Corinthians that he is just teaching them what he himself had already received. So here is a tradition handed on by believers to next generations of believers. And so St. Paul tells the Corinthians of the narrative that he had received. And what is it? The narrative that on the night he was betrayed, Jesus took bread and said, "This is my body. And every time you do it in remembrance of me." And then he took the cup of wine and says that this is the covenant in his blood. And every time you do it, please do it in remembrance of me. And so every time that the disciples gather to remember Jesus, they have to go back to that night of betrayal and how Jesus transformed the pain, the humiliation of betrayal into a gift of himself. Imagine the generosity that Jesus showed on the night of betrayal. He gave his body. He gave his blood. He offered a new covenant. And that is not what we human beings would do normally when you know you are betrayed or being betrayed. We would normally think of self-defense. We would already prepare how to stop their plots. We would even go to the point of making our enemies feel the full weight of our vengeance, our anger. But Jesus, the high priest, transforms the pain, the horror of betrayal by presenting to us generosity at its fullest. And that's why St. Paul tells us, whenever we remember the Lord, whenever we remember, we should proclaim His death until He comes again. The death that is not just about suffering, but about the generosity and compassion that saves us all.